Hello, everyone. I hope you're all having an amazing day. I'm so excited to be doing this Q&A today with Dr. Cynthia Colon, and we are going to be discussing this month's lab lesson, which if you haven't watched it, you are missing out. You need to get on that because it is so helpful, whether your student is approaching the admissions process or even the scholarship process. So basically every school year. So we talked about how to write exceptional essays, but again, a lot of these skill sets, they apply no matter which kind of essay you are writing. So that said, Dr. Colon, why don't you go ahead and just tell us briefly a little bit about yourself?
Hi, everyone. It's so great to be here. Thank you for having me. And I just want to say that I got into this business of college admissions many years ago, over 20 years ago. And I worked on the what I call the shipping and receiving end, right? The college admissions is the receiving end. And then I jumped ship on the other side of the desk and went to the shipping end as a college counselor at a private school. But to be honest with you, the reason I do what I do is because I have found that typically parents don't have enough information soon enough, early enough in the process to help their teen really take advantage of all of the opportunities there are in college admissions. I also find that teenagers really want to be part of the process, but counselors are too busy with seniors and juniors in the fall and in the spring. So if you're wanting to get a head start as a freshman or a sophomore, it's hard to do that. And then, of course, I love my seniors and helping them really wrap up their college admission application. And my niche and my love and my passion are the essays, which you know, Jocelyn.
Yes, absolutely. And with so much experience, I know that everyone has loved the content that you shared already. And for those of you, and I just shared, I think it's Sina, I just shared a question because she posted it in another area, but we will touch on this question. And if any of you have questions, feel free to comment as well. But that said, I also want to make sure that you all know, as always, our expert Q&As are not meant to reteach the entire lesson. It's to answer your questions on it. So it's complementary to the lesson. So if you haven't watched the lesson, this will be kind of some cliff notes, of course, but ultimately you still want to make sure that you go and watch all the materials. And actually, you'll see that with Dr. Colon, the lesson's a little bit unique. Actually, she had existing videos that were just so incredible. So we kind of put things together. So it's really different than the typical lesson. So I have a question that I've kind of put in my back pocket, but I also want to see what Sina said. Let's see. Does the college admissions essay get reviewed for college-based scholarships? We have a few colleges we'd like to apply to, but no essays ready. So I think we can answer this first, and then I'll answer the next question because it kind of goes along together. So does that same essay also, do they use it for scholarship considerations in addition to the admissions?
So if I understand the question is the essay that I submit for admission also being used for scholarship? And the answer to that question is yes, at many places it is. And in some places it's a separate application. So it just depends on the school. I know you hate that kind of answer, but typically when they say if you submit by, I feel like I have one of my campers that is submitting early to Purdue, I want to say. And or if they do it by this deadline, they'll be considered for scholarship. So when it says that, it's typically they're going to take the application as you have already submitted it and use that essay. But there are obviously some more elite colleges and elite scholarships that are going to ask you for a separate essay and also sometimes an interview.
Okay. And I will say, so I come from the original USC. Got to throw that in there. University of South Carolina. We've got a California gal on the call. So, but they do it separate. Even as a state university, you apply for admissions, but then you have to apply separately for the money. And that was really surprising to a lot of students. Fortunately, I caught that before the deadline, but a lot of students missed it. So that was a separate application process. But I love the answer because, yeah, of course, it's going to vary by school. Now, my question goes along with this because, and Sina mentioned, we don't have any essays ready yet. So please go through these videos because you will be light years ahead of where you are now, I promise. But also, one of my questions is, how often do you see your students reusing their essays? Is this something that's common when they're finding their exceptional story, when they're finding their unique abilities to talk about? How often do you think that they're able to reuse this, or do you find that they're rewriting each time?
No, I love this question because they do reuse them and retool and repurpose again and again. So this sort of happens serendipitously. I'm based in California, and the University of California system requires you to choose 4 essays out of the 8 topics. So we came up with, because we were originally, based really working only with California students. So we said, okay, you're going to need a who am I, a what am I good at, what's something super cool about me, and sort of a future or academic piece, right? So in the lessons, you kind of get a handle of that. And based on that, obviously, as we built the business and more out-of-state students, and we represent over 17 states or something, they were using just the Common Application. So we would say, we're going to still use this formula, because all those supplemental essays, when I work with private clients, they will write as many as 18 to 25 plus essays. Right? They need that. So we say you're going to build your core 4, and one is going to emerge clear as a clear winner as your personal statement, which is 650 words max in the Common Application. And then those other topics that are so crucial to painting that full picture of you, building that quilt of a story of your life, you're going to use those as your supplementals. So they typically are around, I say for supplements, it's why us, right? Why this college? Why you? Right? Why this major? And some sort of unique, cool things that you have to answer. Diversity, inclusivity is another hot topic right now as well. So typically, as you've built your core 4, you will be able to see very clearly how you can use the nugget, at least the meat of the story, and then add at the top or at the bottom to repurpose that essay. So the essay campers I work with, we teach them how to do that. And then private clients, we teach them how to go into it and do that. Private clients, I would say there's a 6 maybe. Again, the diversity, if you didn't get the diversity inclusivity essay in the core 4, that is maybe one extra that you'll need to do.
Okay. So that's good to hear that that's one that we're seeing a lot of. I mean, it definitely makes sense at this, anytime, but especially right now. So that's good to know. And let's see here. And actually, before we move on to the next one, I will say that for me, once I got my core essay that I used, I was able to not only use it, I used it my sophomore year to get into a top program within the university, and I reused it every year for scholarship applications. I just updated it a little bit each year based on my new growth or new experiences or whatever. And so, I mean, this is even creating these essays. It's not only reusable this year, it could be reusable for multiple years potentially.
Well, and also I should say, because in case there are students here who are not seniors, if you're starting this process early, bravo to you. First of all, you're rock stars.
But we have a lot of rock stars in here, I would say.
Well, then you can use them to apply to summer programs. Yeah. So there you go.
Oh, yeah. I love it. Okay, let's see here. So Teresa, she's one of our rock stars, I will say. So Dr. Clone shared in her session that the 2 college questions, who am I and what is important to me? For UC apps, what suggestions or recommendations do you have if most of the essay prompts answered are mostly who am I? Do you think that will be too repetitive, and should my daughter answer both questions 2 and 2 prompts? Hope this question is clear. Are you following the question? I'm not sure.
Is she based in California? She's asking about UC.
It sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah. So my philosophy on essay writing and answering questions is Director of College Admissions at UCLA, Gary Clark, says, think first about what you need to say, not what you think we want to hear. Okay. So the way we teach it in camp is we say, we're going to go through these core 4. You're going to answer these. On the first day, they draft 6 sort of mini test drives, 6 to 8. And then we as the adults say, these 4 are working best and are the best combination. So figure out, what is the story you're trying to tell? What are those 4 pieces? You shouldn't have 3 about family and then 1 about surfing, right? It should paint a full picture. So figure out what those 4 stories are, and then find the questions that match. Make the questions work for you, not the other way around. That's a big mistake that I would say most teenagers make.
Wow. I mean, that's fantastic. If you have that flexibility, that's such a great way to approach it, because I think that that's one of the challenges. If we go at it the other way and we're looking at the questions, we're trying to come up with an answer that, like you said, we think they want to hear, and we try forcing, what do they say, a square peg in a circle, or whatever the saying is, and it doesn't work. And I think that students overcomplicate this almost, actually, because of that, by trying to force something to fit something that it shouldn't. And that it sounds so simple when you say it that way, but I would say that very few students approach it that way. So I'm glad that you pointed that out. Teresa, let us know if that answers your question. I think that's a great point. Now, and let's see here. And if any others have any questions, please let us know. Now, you've sat on the admissions side, is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So, and I can't recall, because we've worked on your lessons now a while ago. What would you say, this is kind of a surprise question. What would you say are some of the biggest positives that you noticed in admissions, and maybe what were some of the biggest negatives that you'd noticed? So what would you say that often was, like for us when we are reviewing our scholarships, because we give out scholarships as well, one thing I noticed this year was every single winner started with a story. All of them started with a story. Like, would you say that there's anything that stands out to you that was pretty clear, okay, this is something good that most students should be doing, and then this is something that's a common error that we want to avoid?
Yeah, I'm assuming you mean specifically with the essays, right?
Yeah.
What stands out? So here, I just was meeting with a couple of kids in the last few days, and one essay I read, and I said, listen, all the content is here. I see what you're saying, and I can follow the story, but I want you to go back and look at how many sentences begin with the word I. I did this, and then I did that, and then this, or I this, and I learned this. That is your tell voice, not your show voice. So you're going to lose the reader really quickly, because, and very plainly, I'll just say that if I start to review essays and I'm thinking about what I'm going to eat for lunch, you've lost me within 10 seconds. So that's a hard example of what I mean by tell versus show voice. What ultimately stands out, the sticky factors. So a show voice is great, and showing a story is great. But those who really go after it find the devil's in the details. That little tiny detail that threads through an essay will keep the reader's attention. And it's usually something seemingly so mundane. And I use this, we call it the nuts on the sundae trick, because we have this essay that is a simple, like less than 300 word essay. It's about working at McDonald's. And he starts with the customer asking, or him asking the customer, would you like nuts on your sundae? And then the boss sits with him, and he's learning the cost of everything. And so the boss points to the line that says how much nuts cost every month. And then he goes through and then says, this inspired me to learn more about statistics and business, economics, blah, blah, blah. And now I never add nuts to my sundae. It's a tiny, tiny thing. But every time a camper reads that example, they understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Tiny detail threaded through, right? Because when he first wrote the draft, he had said the nuts, and then he said, oh, he showed me how much pickles cost or something like that. And then he wasn't thinking, and fine. So my advice later was like, what if we just did this? It makes all the difference.
Yeah. I love it. And you can get creative with this. This can be fun. This is also why it helps to have our stories, right? So if you're just Well, a time that made me decide I want to major in this. If you start with like just the prompt, there's no creativity. It's not going to grab anyone's attention. You're definitely going to lose their attention on that. But also, it doesn't open up the doors to these cute little one-liners that are memorable. And I use this example quite a bit. But this year, when we're selecting our winners for our scholarships, we always hide personal identifiers so that we don't have a bias. But what we end up calling the students' applications are those little nuggets, like, oh, it's the nuts on the Sunday guy, like, oh, it's the McDonald's guy, or oh, it's the costume girl, or oh, it's the, and that was literally how we discussed these people. It was like, oh my gosh, yes, it was so clear. It was the Boy Scout boy or whatever. And so it was just, those stories are what we recall, and you want to be remembered when they're coming back and deciding. I love it. Let's see.
That's what we did too at Vassar College. We would call them by the topic of their essay,
like the theme.
Yeah, the thing that made them stand out.
Yeah, exactly. So what is that, again, that unique factor, that unique point about you, but then also when you're looking into your essay, what is that little nugget that can really just create this kind of consistent theme throughout your essay? Laura said, would an essay about working on a farm owned by first Hispanic woman in our area meet the diversity and inclusion need?
Yes, it will. That's a general answer, but if you follow the philosophy that I take, is you've got to know what the why is. So what you value is this farm by this first Hispanic, what you said, and the why you value it is what it's taught you about diversity or whatever. So be sure that the why is driving the memory, which is your story. Okay. So pointing out all of those details in the memory, which is your essay, that go back to the reason you're writing this essay, right?
And I think that's, again, going back to helping people connect with us, right? Giving that why behind things. So, and Kelly said, great suggestion about our previous discussion. So let's see here. And could you give us an example of the prompt for diversity inclusion? Is it just name a time that you've experienced it, or?
There's the Chapman University has one, Villanova. These are the ones that are coming to my mind that I typically have as on hand as examples. But basically, and I went over one last night. So it's basically our campus, our college, ex-campus, Santa Clara, Chapman, values diversity. And they usually have a little bit of a statement, what that means. Tell us an experience that you've had, or how will you contribute to community or building community when you're here on our campus? Okay. So there's a podcast I have with assistant VP at Chapman, Marcela Mejia Martinez, and I asked her this question. I said, this is a question that gets a lot of teenagers stuck, because most teenagers across the country haven't had to reflect on this. Now, that may be less true now or this year. There's a lot of things that are less true this year. But she really went on to say, and I appreciated what her answer was. And she said, I said, if you're a Caucasian female or male somewhere in the country, chances are we all live typically in a pretty homogeneous neighborhood, right? Whatever our background is, we typically live with others that look like us or have the similar background as us. So diversity doesn't really exist. Okay. So it's not just about race and ethnicity. So she says that it's not just about race and ethnicity. Think about it in terms of like geographic, cultural. Like I often say, I lived in New York City and I also lived in LA. That's very different. What is different about that? I have a student in Indiana. She also is a beekeeper. I have a student in New Jersey, has an alpaca farm in her backyard and is biracial. Like there are ways that you have to sort of dig deep. It does take some reflection. It does take some time, but don't think about this as just about race and ethnicity. What kind of socioeconomic background do you come from? Are you liberal and you have very conservative parents, or vice versa? Or are you adopted? Are you biracial? Do you go to private school? Do you go to public school? How have you been ever challenged to even think about it? Or have you never been? And it's okay to say, I don't know. And this movement right now that's happening, the BLM movement, or everything, the political, all these political things are happening, I am struggling with it. I'm uncomfortable still in having a conversation with someone who doesn't agree with my opinion. But I hope that in college, my roommates, my floor mates, my classmates will challenge me. If you're already perfect, there's no need for you to go to college. So it's okay to be imperfect, and it's okay to say, I don't know yet how I feel about this. I don't know how to create community other than the community at my dining room table with my family. That's all I know. And I hope to take those same qualities with me and learn.
I love it. These are all such great examples. I think what I was hearing is we always assume it's a racial topic in discussion, but really it's name a time or think of a time when you have come across people either with different views or experiences than your own even. So I think that's so fantastic. And I will say, actually, as someone who was born up north, moving to the south, I definitely had this experience. It was a bit of a culture shock in and of itself. So I can certainly agree that it doesn't necessarily have to be racial focused. You can definitely get a diverse experience just by moving around the country.
In this country, plenty to talk about, geographically speaking. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I love it. But there's so much more to it. So all of those examples, thank you for sharing those. Okay, let's see here. Would an essay by my son, who's autistic, in his journey in overcoming his developmental delays by joining Scouts, becoming an Eagle Scout, taking the most difficult courses, and lettering in band be a good topic?
The journey of his growth is definitely a good topic. All of those pieces that you listed, there are probably too many things in there. So I'd pick one. So in other words, the value is the autism or the growth of that. The why, figure out what the why is, why, because gain confidence, perseverance, whatever those sort of core values are, what is it? And then find a memory that goes with it. So it's I heard Eagle Scout or Boy Scout. So I'm just going to go with that. So using the Eagle Scout as the memory, how does your son then grow in trajectory in confidence or perseverance, whatever, in spite of or his learning difference? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there could be some huge stories in all of these, right? Eagle Scout could be its own. I mean, we had a winner this year that all they talked about was one single hike as an Eagle Scout, but told so many lessons that they learned through it. Right. And so, yeah, that's a great, I think that's a great answer. Taking the most difficult courses. I think that's a good example, but probably not as interesting as what he could probably come up with his other topics. And lettering and bands. I love that. Also, I think that gives you the freedom once you can pick one. And this is where we do mind mapping. You can write down these three and just kind of brainstorm all the stories for each of them and then see which one makes most sense or which one you're most passionate about, I think. I don't know if you have any.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree on exploring, which is to go back to the point I said earlier about like on day one of essay camp for us, we have them test drive 6 to 8 topics because it allows you to sort of freely think. And they only write 7 to 8 minutes on each topic. We say, that's enough. That's enough of a nugget for us to get a sense of what's working and what's not. And so again, make the questions work for you after you figured out what your stories are. What are your best stories? So
I love this so much.
I'm thinking of something I should say, but I don't want to interrupt the questions though.
No, go ahead. We'll go to the next one after.
So I feel like there's a student I want to give an example of also, because here's another way to maybe think about how to pick a story or pick a organization or something. So I have a student who her core 4 were beekeeping, being a school mascot, the school mascot, getting funding for a mental health room at her school, and band, being the first chairs or getting to be first chair. So she was then trying to decide which one should be her main one for her personal statement. And we finally got on the phone because she wasn't listening to me. And I said, I want you to her parents were finally in the room. I said, I want you to think about the thousands and thousands that will write about band. Thousands. Then I want you to think about maybe they didn't get money or whatever, but mental health is certainly a hot topic. So different students who are in clubs or did something or took on a leadership role about mental health. Okay, that's fewer. Okay. Being the mascot at your school. There's only 33,000 high schools in the country, maybe give or take. So there's one, maybe two mascot per school. It's about as slim as being the valedictorian. So even fewer, and I would say even fewer of those are actually going to be applying to four-year college. So fewer will have that topic. How many are beekeepers? Even fewer. Okay. So if you can think that way, to be unique and stand out or to be sticky, there are a lot of factors that go in. But if you can get a head start by starting with a topic that is already so narrowly focused, spend time there, reflect there, because you're going to find gold there. You just will.
I love that. That's very, very helpful. So I think the last question we'll have time for, Diane asked, I've always heard to use action verbs in essays and descriptive adjectives. I think breaking up large paragraphs to a more, I don't even know how to say this word, palatable.
Yeah.
Is that, my husband always makes fun of me. What word do I say wrong? Plethora.
Oh, plethora.
Once I said plethora. I have no idea why. So anyway, clearly Jocelyn needs some reading classes. Let's see here. So and less overwhelming, helps the reader digest, read, remember the content. So do you have anything to say on that, using action verbs and descriptive adjectives to help make it, I would say, come alive? But
yeah, we talk about using the five senses for sure. That is different than using flowery words. Descriptors are meant to strengthen, not lengthen. Let me say that again. So your action and your five senses and your show voice is meant to strengthen, not lengthen. Every word in your essay is high real estate. There are only so many words you get. So every single sentence, every single word should be moving the reader through the journey of your story. So you don't just describe the puffy white pillow clouds to add words and flowery and descriptive words. That's not really the point. So I just really want to, I think that there's often sort of a misunderstanding of how we're making our essays come to life. And they are meant to be action driven and purposeful words, every single one.
Okay. All right. And I think that's where more so with the scholarship system course, but we do also offer them to DFD members. We do have essay reviews. And this is something that I would say we often go through is, okay, this sentence is 10 words and it could probably be 5. So finding ways to free it up. And all of you know, I always say use as many words as you can without just using filler words, right? We want to make every word count, but we should try to maximize that real estate space. And so it's so funny. We shared a funny meme and it was something like me trying to write an essay. And the sentence said it was therefore likely I most wanted to eventually go to school. It was just all of these. It was so funny. And it was just accurate for many students just trying to hit that word count. Laura says, this is great. Awesome. Well, everyone, I always like to respect everyone's time. So that actually is the top of our time for this Q&A. But Cynthia, thank you so. Oh, go ahead.
Can I put in something that they can download?
Yeah, of course.
Chat, or where do I put it?
Let's see here. In the comments. It's perfect.
In the comments.
I think you'd be able, if it doesn't let you, you can send it to me and then I'll comment on the video with it.
Oh, I didn't see the comments until now. Oh gosh. Okay. I was in the private chat. Okay. So that's the link to get my top 10 tips and resources guide. I have those of you who are freshmen, sophomores, or juniors, Dream College Academy opens in November 18th, and will close November 30th. So
okay, perfect. All right, everyone. And we'll share the links. We'll also, if you also want to, if you're ever like, oh gosh, who is that expert, or where do I go? What was their link? We always put any links to them underneath the lesson. So all of Cynthia's information, her bio, her links, everything is there. She has a great podcast as well, and we'll include that free download. So, all right, always top-notch material, they said. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. This is great. All right, lots of love. So that said, thank you so much. And yeah, let's see. You guys don't see the link. Here, I'm commenting with it. There you go. Okay, so it's in there. All right, everyone. We'll talk to you all soon. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week. And again, Dr. Colon, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye, everyone.
Bye.